Good morning, dear Unity friends. I'm very happy to be among you this morning. I want to
Sunday,
offer some
June
thoughts
8th, 2025.
about sound,
Kindness.
about music.
Today we affirm. Today, I will be kind to others. And our message reads, when I think of being kind, I
Am
am
I hearing
reminded of the
something in the...
golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It takes only a moment and no special effort to be kind. I can smile at a stranger, hold the door for the person behind me, or let someone go ahead of me in line. These small acts of kindness bless everyone involved. Other kind efforts may take more thought. I think of how I prefer to be treated. I certainly want to be heard and respected. I want to know my views and opinions matter. I want others to see my value and treat me with dignity. I hold this thought as I think of others. I see people imbued with the Spirit of God. Kindness flows from me to bless others. Our Bible verse for today is from Proverbs 21:21. Whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life and honor.
Thank you. I'm sorry to have interrupted. I didn't know that feature would be used, but it's very effective. Thank you, Neil, for providing that reading. Well, I want to check out everyone here. I'm going to put on my psychic binoculars and see what's happening in the world. Okay, I'm seeing the right things here. Good. And I have to adjust the valves. I have these inert gas valves on my psychic binoculars. So when I open them or close them, it adjusts the rates of vibrations. How many of you believe me? Raise your hands if you believe me. That's good. Don't believe me. No, it's not true. Don't believe me. Okay, what about vibrations now? You're hearing my voice, and the human ear, a healthy, strong human ear, young ear, can hear from about 22 cycles per second up to maybe 13,500 cycles per second, something like that. These are just numbers, but below that 22 cycles, there are other vibrations. Now, the 22 is for stereo equipment, but the human ear can actually detect vibrations as low as 7 cycles per second. Below that, we will not perceive it as a musical pitch. And above 13.5, now those vibrations are not going to be audible because the human eardrum doesn't vibrate fast enough for the ear to transfer to the brain the sound. So we're limited in our human perception, a short range of sounds. I'm mentioning this, and to tie this in with unity teachings, we need to do that. Every talk should have the unity among these teachings. And all of these cycles tie together with all of the major religions, but we're looking at the early writings in the Bible. In the book of Genesis, described was a rhythm of creation. God rested. And then a cycle begins again. So those of us who observe resting on Sundays, no work, no heavy duty things, dedicating it to the Creator or the creative force of the universe, if you choose. Here is a rhythm. And these rhythms are in our lives to be observed and to learn from. I want to talk about those rhythms a little bit because this idea of rest allows us to become quiet. And when we become quiet, we are more receptive to knowledge around us. That's a huge idea because everyone is still learning. No one I see out there on the screen is a finished product. Everyone has things to do. We have to get busy and stay busy, in my opinion. And I want to point out that the idea of music, this came up on the internet. I saw a little piece about the eccentric practices of Albert Einstein. And one of the things he liked to do was playing the violin, and he played Mozart to loosen up, to get his creative pursuits going, his juices. And Mozart is a very interesting classical composer. His music is very cyclic. So, for example, in the sonata form, those of you who have read a little bit or studied music know that the sonata form has an exposition, then a development of the ideas, and then a recapitulation of those musical ideas. And his music is wonderful for getting your mind to observe those cycles. And they're intellectual cycles that are vital to observe. And there's an author, Don Campbell, and Don Campbell wrote the book, The Mozart Effect. And this is a wonderful book. It's also a set of CDs you can get for listening. And the reason his music is so good is that it is very well organized. Intrinsically, you will hear expressions of ideas and then developments and recapitulations. And that's a wonderful way to learn in our daily lives. You pick up something to read, you look at the main ideas, you toss them around in your own life experience, and then you review your ideas. And that's going to create a solid groundwork for anything we want to learn. And with all of the arts, you have those elements. So the idea of vibrations is an intense occurrence vibrating against the eardrums, and then the sound recedes, and then again. And when you make it fast enough, it becomes a musical sound or a pitch. You could say it's a note, but technically a note is written or printed on a paper. That music stand over there, that has notes on it. But if I play an instrument to use those notes, then they become pitches, numbers of vibrations. So these numbers are all through the universe, as you know. Not only are there the audible vibrations of music we hear, to include the pitches of the human voice, but we have the inaudible ones. We have vibrations coming to us from over 13 billion light years. Maybe some of you are fans of the space program. I am certainly, ever since the Sputnik. Yes, I'm glad to see those hands. Oh, way back out there. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there they are. I see them. Well, the idea of these musical vibrations and inaudible vibrations all mesh together. There is a seamless and infinite number of these vibrations with many decimal places. So this whole universe is filled with white noise. So to tie this in with our unity teachings about the nature of God, there's going to be a lot of contemplation we're going to do on our own, not only using our unity teachings, but also using our own common sense. What is the essence of the vibration in the mind? There's another very wonderful book. I've read it a few times and I've given it as a gift to some people. The Healing Forces of Music by Randall McClellan. And in this book, it's useful to read music, but you don't need that skill immediately to enjoy the book. But he talks across cultures about vibrations. So those of you who pray, Amen might become a mantra for you, or mantra. It becomes a sound in the mind. A universally successful mantra can come up in your mind as a rhythm, And I'll be going into that with a guided meditation soon. So in consideration of all these ideas, vibration, the recurrence of our consciousness in different forms, the recapitulation of everything we have ever known, that is in our spiritual lives. That becomes the language of the soul, if you can use that term for your own understanding. All of these things are going to recirculate And that becomes a larger rhythm, a larger cycle of learning. So if you play a musical instrument or not, these things are available to you. Anyone can go up to a piano with one finger and start to play one note, the next note, the next note, and you put them together, and pretty soon you have your own composition. And we don't even have to use the idea of reading music to play an instrument. You can play it on your own. Any other instrument is going to be easier once you learn one and then another. Once somebody asked Pepe Romero in a master class, the classical guitarist, he calls himself a flamenco guitarist who likes classical guitar. But if you've heard him play, he is a very gifted person and a very hardworking person, a hardworking person. And he contributed the idea. Someone asked in his master class, I played in two of his master classes, and one of them, he said, someone asked him, how good do you have to be, or how young do you have to be to master this instrument? And Pepe Romero bowed his head for a moment and he said, well, today, play one beautiful note. And then tomorrow, play two beautiful notes. And then pretty soon, you're going to have a whole lineup of these beautiful sounds behind you. And that's going to be your music. Now, those are my thoughts, those last couple of sentences. But the whole idea of relaxing into ourselves sets up the mind for receptivity. And that receptivity is going to give us much more than things like talent or proclivities from previous life experiences. All those things are important, but more important is the openness that we bring to any new experience. So when Noah was building an ark, where did he get that information? Well, inspired by God, he built the ark. Well, what about that inspiration? That inspiration coming from God, maybe you don't have God on some days. It's not a terrible thing if on some days you read the news and you start to wonder, well, is there really a creator guiding all of this? I wonder sometimes. But you're always going to have your inner voice. You will always have the self to listen to. That will always be with you, no matter what the circumstances. So in going into the idea of the inner self, I'm going to open this for a guided meditation. And, you yourselves know that if you talk to a person for a few minutes, you'll be able to tell if they are receiving the benefits of their meditation practice. Sometimes we have to sit still for a while and just worry about things until the mind relaxes and plays itself out so that the mantra or so that some universal ideas can come into the mind. So now you don't have to raise hands or anything if you don't wish, but if you are meditating, some of us will use holy books on occasion. That would be considered a concentration or a contemplation session, not necessarily meditating. In the Eastern sense, meditation means allowing the mind to become still so that we can have the inner experience of samadhi. Samadhi is connection with the divine, and that is a major goal. So you can start with the Lectio Divina, which is reading scripture, placing yourselves into the lives of saints and being in the holy lands. Wherever those lands are, they're holy. So once you go into those lands and contemplate, that can become samadhi. So the preparation for your meditation might be something akin to concentration and to contemplation. So I'd like to take a short time to go into a meditation. And in preparation, I have to tell you this, I'll be circulating this first to Neil for our group, but it's going to be a guided meditation on faith, YouTube. And on YouTube, you can learn anything you want. There's somebody in the world who wants to teach you something right now, to include changing the starter on your aging 16-year-old Toyota RAV4, which certain speakers today are in possession of. Oh, yeah, somebody will teach you these things. So I'll be there too. I'm going to send the link to Neil, and that's going to become a resource for you. So now, in describing this experience of samadhi, the meditation technique, I'm going to start backwards. Now, I've done this before. Possibly some of you have heard this, but it bears repeating because the human mind learns more and more every time we hear something again. When it's repeated, it becomes more solid. So I'm going to describe the meditative experience backwards. And this way, as we go through the experience, you'll become aware of what's coming up. And then it'll be familiar with the next step. The next step is more familiar. Okay, so assuming that you have meditated, you're out in the world again. You connect with the people around you, your home situation. Maybe you'll go out and enjoy nature. Well, that, after about 15 to 20 minutes or so, approximately, you might feel more openness after the meditation. You might feel as though your senses have been heightened. You might feel as though your visual acuity is sharper. All these things are possible. Not always, but very often. So at the end of your meditation, you have that as a benefit. Well, now, during the meditation, several things can happen. Now, if you're using a mantra already, or if you use your a regular technique of meditation, don't change it because we want it to deepen. There's such a thing as vertical coherence. You can take the most basic thought, and going deep enough, you will have revelations equal to anyone else's revelations on this planet, I believe. Then you also have the horizontal coherence. So you have the vertical and the horizontal. Does that look familiar to anyone? And in this way, we can possibly connect with the whole universe with our vertical and horizontal coherence. So allowing your meditation technique to deepen is a major goal. So as I said, don't change the meditation technique that you have, but I'm going to be describing one for those of you who are not meditating regularly. By the way, when you pick up a meditation technique, you need about 2 weeks at least, or maybe even a month or more, for it to deepen, for you to recognize the benefits. So during your meditation, some of you are going to use a mantra, and I'll describe that as the step before. Now, during the meditation, a number of things are going to happen. Sometimes your mantra or your breath awareness, sometimes those are going to be overridden with thoughts. And they can be any thoughts at all. That's energy going through the mind. These are chemical responses that your brain is making for your technique. So all these thoughts are going through the mind. And the goal is not to have a goal. You let those thoughts go through. You relax the mind. You don't have to embroider them up with anything else. Oh, I'm thinking about my backyard. Oh, yeah. Oh, gee, why? Why did I think about my backyard? And pretty soon you have so many layerings of thoughts that they're almost uncontrollable. So you don't have to control them. You watch them from a distance and you allow the thoughts to go through the mind. And sometimes you'll have breath awareness alone or the mantra alone. And it's going to be sounding in your mind. By the way, you're going to listen for the mantra. You don't say it. You listen for it. You allow it to come up because so many people on this planet are also meditating. And throughout the universe, there are living beings who are using their equivalent of a meditation. So as you're saying or listening, your thoughts are going to override, and sometimes the mantra will override everything. And then sometimes you'll have both an embroidery of rapid succession of the mantra with thoughts, both at the same time, layering over each other. And then other times you will have nothing. There will be nothing. And then all of a sudden you're going to say to yourself, oh my goodness, I was meditating. Gee whiz, am I not a good boy? Am I not a good girl? Well, you don't have to do that also because those are thoughts. So when you realize you're meditating, goody goody gumdrops. You don't have to embroider that thought either. You let it go so that you fulfill your goal of the meditation time. A good length of time for people would be about 20 minutes a day, twice. I'm using a longer period than that. I do it for about 35 minutes because I'm a crazy person, and a longer time gives me more depth. I think, I believe it does. And this is all belief, you know. I've never met anyone who came back from beyond, who came down from heaven to tell me, oh, hey, John, this is the way it really is, man. You're doing great. Keep going, keep going. No, I've never had that. So my element of faith is to trust the things that are working for me. And my regular meditation is supportive of everything else I'm doing, to include the readings of scriptures. By the way, I always put the daily word quotation at the bottom, the biblical quotation. I always go to the big book and I look it up and I look at the context. And in this way, I'm giving myself something of a higher education regarding the Bible, the Holy Scriptures. So during your meditation, those four possibilities are happening: thoughts, no thoughts, mantra, both thoughts and mantra, and everything in the world going through your mind. You're allowing that to happen without challenges, without expectations. You're letting your mind unravel. This is relaxing the brain. And during that time, the centers of your brain are going to become more efficient, more usable, and it's going to be an opening of doors, sometimes doors that we don't even know about yet. Okay, so the step before inviting the mantra into the mind or inviting your breath awareness, before that is your separation, your preparation. Now, the preparation simply means aligning your body. So how do you do that? Now, I'm sitting in a chair that has a back on it. And when I'm doing some of my work, I'm sitting upright in the chair. There's a padding under it, but I'm not resting my back against the chair, because with some backs, they're appropriate, but some backs of chairs will press on the lower ribs. And that is an important idea because you know that your diaphragm is connected with the lower ribs in the back and with the sternum in the front. And it's a shelf. It's a shelf of muscle. And when we flex this muscle, it goes down and pulls air in. And then we relax, and the muscle, the diaphragm, falls upward. So it's an up and down motion. And as you're sitting here relaxed, there is a tidal volume of this motion. Just like the tides of planet Earth and maybe elsewhere, the tides have a specific distance they're moving. So you're allowing your body to be upright, very still. You're feeling that as you breathe in, you can flex open the back ribs to support the diaphragm. So your breathing is peaceful. Your face is relaxed. You feel the gentle movement of the abdomen supporting the breath. For breath awareness, as with vipassana practice of meditation, you're simply watching the breath and you're allowing the thoughts to pass over the top or underneath and through the breath awareness. If you use a mantra, you can use Om. I said that because it has been so universally successful. Millions of people have benefited from the sound Om. You can let the sound come into the mind as one long rush of sound, or it might present itself as a rhythmic occurrence in the mind. So, however it comes into the mind, we accept that. Sometimes it's very loud, and sometimes it will change the sound. Sometimes it might become a different word. That's okay with us because we're relaxing the thoughts, we are relaxing the mind, and all of this is going to be a benefit for higher awareness. So, as the mantra comes in, or as your breath awareness continues, we're going to become quieter and quieter. So I'm going to give this around 5 minutes of silent time. And I will even mute my own screen for a moment. So as this continues, I will gently call you back at the end of approximately 5 minutes. So whatever happens is okay in meditation. You may cry or laugh or celebrate or regret, but remember these are only thoughts in the meditation. We're going to release them. So, my gentle, beautiful friends, I'm going to mute myself as well, and I will gently call you back in about 5 minutes. Okay, dear ones, we very gently release the meditation technique. We let it go back to the source. A very gentle process to come back from meditation. So this has been a short interval of time where each of us has been able to go inside for the revelation of amazing worlds, plural. So this has been a review of a meditation technique. It's a very wide-ranging set of skills we use. And as I said, if you have a technique that you like, don't stop using it, don't change it until you're really, really sure. You know, in some schools of meditation, they'll say, don't change anything. Don't go for a higher technique for about 10 years or more. And I've used the same technique since about 1976, and it hasn't changed. I haven't needed to change it. When I was initiated as a yoga teacher at the Himalayan Institute, it turns out that Swami Rama, who founded the Himalayan Institute, was in the same school as Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in the Himalayas. And so the techniques were the same. And I got an advanced, so-called advanced technique. But we're always beginners, always beginners. A wonderful book, another one. I know I shower you with a big onslaught of information. That's my technique for bringing the world into a smaller dimension. But another book is Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Suzuki. It's a good read. It's easy. It's simple. All of these ideas should be simple. You know, I know one of the religions, the major religions, has a catechism about that thick. Well, I don't know if I need that to be a good person and to be a decent teacher. I don't know if I need a book that thick, but it exists. A group of people thought that it would be important. So, okay, we give it a chance. Well, I've tied a lot of ideas here together. I've attempted to do so under the umbrella of our unity teachings, the cyclic movement through the Old Testament Genesis book and around in circles through the universe, all of those vibrations happening through the mind and through a basic meditation technique. So at this time, hoping that you've had a great time inside your spacious mind, I'll turn the control back to our brother Neil